What's up? What's up? What's up? Back at you, Chad Belding. Another episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody. Thank y'all again so much for the continuous response and support of all of our sponsors and partners. It's truly humbling to see the growth of our audience. Today's episode again of the This Life Ain't For Everybody podcast is brought to you by our friends in Lynchburg, Tennessee, the home of the one and only, the Americana, the Jack Daniels. Enjoy it responsibly. But like I said many times, Jack Daniels has been there for us on many occasions to celebrate, to get past a breakup or a heartache, to make sure that our days end well with that 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hour. Jack Daniels is always there. But as long as we enjoy it ethically and responsibly, there is nothing wrong once in a while with enjoying the culture of Jack Daniels. So Jack Daniels, thank you very much for believing in everything that we do here at The Foul Life and all of our brands. It's truly humbling. I'm excited about today's episode. I got somebody that's kind of from that area, a little bit more south and a little bit more east of Lynchburg, Tennessee, from the great state of Georgia. He is, I don't know how to explain this man. He's been on the podcast, kinda. We got kind of mixed up in Nashville on an Andy Griggs episode. But from what I hear, the reputation of this guy, besides how good he is in front of the camera, his work ethic is unreal. But his talents as an archer is what have set him apart. Not just being able to shoot a bow in competition and targets in 3D, but actually being able to perform and execute on the hunt. But he is also a great instructor. And above all that, he can set up a bow with the best of them. And he's done so many bows for people that have common ground with us from 9-to-5ers, as well as many celebrities. It started with Realtree and it spread across the country. Travis T-Bone Turner, bone collector, the main man. Look at him there. How are you, brother?
Good. How are y'all? Man, thanks. I'm going to have to cut you a check for that intro, man. If there's any way that I can get a recording of that, I'd love that. I'd like my wife to hear that every morning.
Buddy, I have an entire recording studio here. I could personalize them to your wife every day. Just to be like, Miss Turner, this is Chad Belding coming at you. Wanted to remind you that on this great Wednesday morning, as the sun comes up over the Georgia landscape, please realize that man laying next to you, Travis T-Bone Turner, is one of a kind. He shoots and he hits his arrow just like Cupid. He was Cupid the day you met him, and he still is stupid in love with you, Miss Turner. So just remember that as you get your day started on this beautiful Wednesday.
Man, you talk about brownie points. I'd have to have a pickup truck to tote the brownie points in.
Hey, what's that sign say over your left shoulder to my right? What's that say?
Well, here in Georgia, we've trademarked. I mean, I know you've got this life ain't for everybody, but, you know, we had to jump on the train. This life ain't for most folks.
So you're starting a new TV show, a podcast, and just This Life Ain't For Most Folks.
Not yet. We're just getting our ducks in a row. No pun intended. We're getting our ducks in a row, and we're just holding that name. You know what I mean? Just in case.
Just in case. This life. I kind of like it. This life. I might start naming this one. This Life Ain't For Most Folks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a tally. Hey, the other ongoing talk that we had, I talked to Waddy yesterday. I talked to Nick yesterday. So I got Bone Collector just nonstop. You know, it's my favorite show on outdoor TV. I've said that many occasions. It's the reason why the Foul Life is where the Foul Life is. And I didn't talk to Nick about. We touched on eating wild game, and that's all he eats in his diet is a wild game that he lives off of all year with his family. Then I talked to Waddy, and we talked about turkey fries, fish fries, and other ways of eating what you guys are probably eating a lot of off the land in the South right now, which would mainly be your wild turkey, because you've had some wild turkey success already. And I also saw a post from you specifically a couple days ago. And right before this, I was talking to Brent Cobb, our mutual friend, Brent Cobb, and he said he just caught 35 brim out of his mom's pond, his mother-in-law's pond. And I said, brim as in bluegill? Because out here we call them bluegill.
Yeah.
First off, T-Bone, is that the same? Waddell says that's the same exact thing, and there's different species, and there's hybrids and all of this, but a brim is a bluegill, correct?
Well, yeah, a brim just kind of encompasses a panfish, period. It could be a red-eared sunfish. It could be a bluegill primarily. It could be a gosh, I'm thinking there's 3 or 4 different species that it could be, but basically, yeah, a brim just encompasses all them, but bluegill being the number one, yes.
And when you made that post, you spelled it BREAM.
Yeah.
So is that the correct pronunciation, or is it Southern to say brim and out West I'm supposed to say bream, or is it pronounced brim when it's spelled bream?
It's pronounced brim when it's spelled bream.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. See, I love learning from you.
Yeah, and some people even spell it BRIM.
BRIM. That would be that's how I would think it would be spelled.
Correct. Yeah, but no, it's spelled BREAM, but it's pronounced brim.
Okay, so I want you to get your head wrapped around brim, panfish, and turkey, and I want you to think about the edible part of that, of what you do as a hunter and a gatherer and how you prepare that stuff, because I want to get a couple ideas of, I saw you make a comment and Waddell said it yesterday about catch and release, and released right into Lake Crisco, which is, you should trademark that because that's awesome. But I want to touch on something that I have gotten a lot of slack from guys like Chad Mendez, who guys that Chad Mendez has inspired out here west. And I don't want you to hang up on me. So don't just be shutting down your laptop when you hear this. A turkey should be killed only with a shotgun, in my opinion. Now, I know that you're badass and you're really good with a bow, and so is Mendez. But there are certain animals that are meant to be killed certain ways, in my opinion. And I'm opinionated, but I'm not going to be ignorant. I know that there's open discussion. I just think that a bow and arrow archery hunt on a turkey is so not needed. It's so there's really no climax, the Shakespearean play where you got your plot and then your storyline and then your rising action and then all of a sudden the climax and then the falling action and then the resolution of the walkout with your turkey. There's just none of that, because the chances of wounding the animal are very high with, not being able to pattern a shotgun through a choke tube, and with the scientific research that goes into today's ammo and the innovation there. Am I an idiot for saying that? Have you heard that before? And why would I ever even think that, coming from a master archer like yourself?
Well, honestly, I mean, I'm being 100% honest with you. I feel the same way. A turkey is designed to be shot with a shotgun. I mean, blow his face off, and I bleed archery. Honestly, I that first and foremost, that's my favorite weapon. But and I've killed a couple of turkeys with my bow, and there's different ways of doing so. But a turkey is so 3-dimensional, and the kill zone is so small that when it's in full strut, or even it's like trying to hit a hefty sack or a football, so it's hard to pick where the vitals are inside there. And when I recommend people aim for the head. Therefore, if they hit the head, just like you would with a shotgun, if you hit the head with archery equipment, the majority of the time you're going to kill it. I mean, 90% of the time. But if you miss, you miss. You haven't wounded it. You're not going to have to, because if they jump and fly and you hit them in the wrong place, you're not going to find them because they're flying off and you can't blood trail them. So, I tell people the vitals of the head are as big as their vitals in their body. So by all means, I'm making sure that they shoot them towards the head. But me personally, if I'm going turkey hunting, I am definitely, I'm going to be shotgun hunting. I agree with you 100%.
And what about this last couple of weeks? Has it been shotgun?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not taking the bow, not one time this year. I mean, well, in the last 4 years, I've not taken the bow at all. And if you hunt these stubborn Easterns, Waddell will tell you the same thing. I mean, you finally get one to work for you down here as they're call shy and it's thick as a wicker basket around here. You want to blow his face off. You're frustrated. So you don't want to have it. You don't want to have it messed up by trying to get a bow drawn back or something like that. So no, absolutely, I'm all for you with the shotgun. So
wow, I don't know if I feel validated. I don't want, because I'm not that guy that's raw. It's just something about it just came over me probably 3 years ago to where I'm not going to get up on a soapbox and say you should never hunt a turkey, but you know what I mean? If you're hunting and you're ethical and legal and having fun, then fine. But what you said just it validates it to me. It's almost like trying to shoot a coyote. And I know that people have different thoughts on a coyote. My thought growing up with coyotes, because out west here, it was nothing to hear 15 of them howling every night. Right. And then we started hunting them, and we totally believe in predator management. and control and controlling your population of coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions, everything, especially with a state right next door like California, that you can't chase bobcats with dogs. You can't chase bears with dogs. You can't even look at a cougar in California, let alone hunt one. Right. So there are mountain ranges, T-Bone, like on our borders of California and northern Nevada, where the mule deer population used to be insane, in the antelope population. And because of that protection in California, they'll just transplant cougars from like the Los Angeles area and SoCal and Central Cal, and then they'll transplant them into all these northern California mountain ranges. Well, it gets cold as heck. What do? They come right down into the valleys and across the state border. They find home here, and our herds are affected by it. So everything comes with a cost. But when I'm thinking about predator management, I always tell people the first thing you always hear is cuss words and then the coyote. F a coyote, or I hate coyotes. Well, I look at it more like we built our land, we built our homes right in their land, right? And we do have the right to manage them, but we can't just be like, we got to eradicate coyotes. They're part of our ecosystem, and they're part of the everyday, stance that wildlife populations have in our habitats here in America, Canada, wherever coyotes roam, which there are a ton of them in Canada, and they have moved eastward even into Georgia, where they're not probably as prevalent as they are out here, but they're getting more so. So my point in saying all of that was, I learned a long time ago that when I'm calling coyotes, I want them at 3 feet with a 12 gauge, and I want them triples, and I want them 4s and 5s coming all at once, where I'm picking them off like mallard ducks or dove on a September Georgia dove shoot. Yeah. I'm okay proficient with a rifle at 175 to 300 yards with no wind and a pretty steady, rest. These guys that are trying to kill coyotes with the vitals being that big at 800, 1,000 yards, you're just going to cripple that animal. And there's no sense in crippling any animal, even a coyote. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. But at the end of the day, I talking about getting up on a soapbox, I want to make sure that everybody's well aware that, we're all for, if it's legal, by all means. If that scratches your itch and that is your desire to hunt turkeys with a bow, by all means do so. I got a lot of friends that do so, and it's definitely a great redneck to-do list to check off to make sure that you've done it with it. But I personally get the thrill out of shooting with a shotgun just because it's so hard, and rightfully so. Like you talk about, coyote hunting. Well, in Georgia, you can't shoot that far just about anywhere. So they're going to have to be under 150 yards here in Georgia. So you don't have to shoot those long distances for coyotes. So yeah, the more the merrier. If you're trying to eradicate, or you're trying to definitely thin out and do some predator control, a shotgun, with some buckshot or number 2s and 4s or something like that. Yeah, it's going to do the job rather nicely when they're, under 60 yards.
T-Bone, when you talk, I think of a lot, and I was talking to Waddy yesterday about the Alabama episode y'all did with the tornado, and I don't want to get into it with you because it got emotional yesterday with what that episode meant to me. Waddy got really emotional yesterday with what it meant to him, as far as like how y'all are able to give back, and you have been very good at giving back, not just in conservation and to the animal, but T-Bone Turner has been very good and just so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you're always there to help a kid or to set up a bow or to teach a class or go to a Whitetails Unlimited function and be a speaker. You have a very strong following. When you're on camera and you're doing your in studio, what have become one of my favorite parts of the Bone Collector show is that how you guys go back and forth so naturally. Are you guys scripted, or are you even in the same area? Do you go to Waddell's? Is there a studio to where Munt flies in and you all meet there and you kind of feed off of each other in a day like that? And like, if you're talking about turkey hunting bows, and we had this conversation, it just sparked me. Like, you're sitting there going, well, turkey hunting bows, I agree with you, Chad. And then Waddell comes on and goes, well, wait a minute, T-Bone, we got somebody that wants to argue. And then all of a sudden Munt comes on in his mullet wig and he's like, I love hunting turkeys with the bow. And then all of a sudden the camera flashes back to T-Bone. He's like, let me tell you something. You know what I'm talking about with that back and forth? Is that scripted and written out, or is it 100% natural and you guys are filming them in different locations, etc.?
No, they're all filmed in the same location. We have a studio at our offices here in Georgia. And, Michael and I only live, 20, 30 minutes from there. But usually what we do is the producers have the show about 90% done, and they know that where they're going to put, the B-roll and the spine takes in there. So what we watch the show so that we're familiar with the way it is edited and what's being seen, so we know how to comment. And then basically we ad lib all of it, meaning there's no script whatsoever. The producer just says, "Hey, I need a comment about this doe that Nick shot. I need a comment about Waddell missing this. I need a comment about that." Because so a lot of times we're not all three in camp. There's very few times that we're fortunate enough to all three be in camp. So we don't know the feel of the way the whole week went. If we're doing a spine takes for a show that Waddell did, we get the feel of it by watching the edited version, and then we comment based on that. And then whoever goes first, we get to see some of their. It may be on different days. We're not all three there, and we get to banter back and forth. A lot of times I'll go down there and it's just me and the producer. It'll be at night or in the morning. And actually, I can't remember a time in the last 3 years that Michael or Nick was even in the office when I was down there, or vice versa. Nick will fly in, usually flies in that morning, does 2 or 3 shows in a row, and then flies back that night. He's not even in town for a day. So that's the way we do it. It's all done in the same studio, and we've got, soundboards up and backlighting. So it's, kind of a lighted brand, if you will. So anytime you see the green screen behind us, the lit green screen, that's a bone collector spine take branded type interview. So no, we don't know. We ad lib it all. Basically we just bounce. We sit there and think about it a little bit and say, hey, I want to say something like this. This would be a good time to be serious. This would be a good time to be funny. And we try a few things, and it just kind of works out real good. And we want to make it lighthearted. Waddell says so many times that, our show, by all means, there's a lot of shows that kill a lot bigger deer, but there is no show out there that's going to outfun us. By all means, we want to celebrate whether it's a doe, a squirrel, or anything. If it's legal, we just want to celebrate the hunt. We want folks to feel like when they've watched the episode, it's like, holy crap, I'd love to be in camp with those guys.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's kind of what the theme of my talk was yesterday, about how that part of the lifestyle takes a duck hunter or a coyote hunter out west and puts them in that whitetail stand or that moose camp, and makes you feel like, hey, I'm part of the brotherhood. And I think it wasn't. I think there was, obviously it was very well thought out. The brotherhood in the bone collector and the brand and how it was initiated. But I don't think any of you guys were ready for what was going to happen, and here we are 12, 13 years later. I know that you're a very humble man, Travis T-Bone Turner, but you also have a life that a lot of people that could easily become envious of. And you guys do a really good job of trying to make those people understand that, hey, we can all do this. I'm a bow shop guy that had a character, and the producer on site that day at Realtree said, we're going to call you T-Bone because that's what your nickname was back in the day. And you thought it was just too regular, and they loved it. And here we are. And you're T-Bone Turner now. That's what you go by. You very rarely call Travis in the hunting industry. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been some 4-letter words I've been called, but mainly it's T-Bone.
What is that? Deer and buck deer?
Buck deer. Might be kids listening.
Do you ever watch those episodes on a Sunday night with your wife? Or is it past the romance part of the show? And when you do you always watch them? And do you ever sit there and go, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I'd have been a little bit cleaner on that. I wish I would have been a little bit, better in my wording on that. Do you sit there and be real critical on yourself?
No, not really. I mean, maybe when it first began, way back doing Realtree stuff in the mid 2000s, I guess might have been a little bit more critical, but that's the great thing about it. It's we're not acting. We're not having to switch it and do a 180 from our real personalities. We're just being who we are. So, when you can look in the camera and know that you're being honest and you're being humble and you're really acting from the gut, I have no regrets whatsoever. I mean, there's been maybe a few times, but for the most part, no, it's always an entertaining show. I mean, I'm a fan of Nick. I'm a fan of Michael. I'm a fan of our guest, and just a fan of, wow, that was a great memory. And that was a great camp. I mean, like, gosh, I can't wait to do that again, just because, the killing of the critter is the cherry on top, but we all know, and people can actually relate to it, hopefully, that it's like, that's what hunting camp's all about. It ain't about man, I got a 180 this week. Nothing else matters. No, it's all about the times that we had and the fun times. I mean, we can't wait to get back in camp and sit around at dinner time and shoot the bull. And, those are the true memories, in my opinion. The critter that you harvest is basically just, like I said, the cherry on top, or something to mount on the wall to make sure that you remember it.
When you guys are in camp, and I'm asking this because Waddell is busy, you're busy. You guys don't just hunt. You have speaking engagements, you have appearances, you have dinners and banquets, and you go to church with your families, and you put together bows during the day, and Waddell's farming almonds, and which are called almonds out here in California, which I get corrected on all the time. Almond farm. Pecans. That's what he's farming.
Yeah.
He's farming pecans. Okay. You guys are busy. He's getting ready to launch a new business, he said yesterday on the podcast. When you're in camp and you're cutting up, is it a forced deal to where you have to say, okay, Waddell, from 6 to 7, we're at the table filming a fish fry and you and T-Bone are going to banter? Or is Waddell relaxed at camp and he's a little bit more humanized to where the celebrity's taken out and he's just Waddell at hunting camp and he's less stressed there? Are you less stressed? Is your phone turned off and you can just be yourself at camp? Or is it more of like, well, this is just part of our daily routine, but we still have to answer these calls and talk to these outdoor riders and do sponsorship maintenance and da-da-da-da-da? Is it forced, or is it pretty natural at camp?
It's pretty natural. We look forward to it because when we're at home, we have mandatory commitments in the office and such. So we look forward to it. I mean, a lot of people say, like when we're doing speaking engagements from say January to August, everybody's like, hey, you're about to get busy, whereas we've really been tearing the road up, doing all of our commitments and stuff from January to August. Whereas in our mind, we're like, oh no, man, from September to January 1st, we can't wait to get in camp. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still maintenance like you talked about, but for the most part, I mean, like we can't wait to spend time together. I mean, even when Nick lived down here, I mean, we'd get together and we'd have fish fries because we all lived within about 30 minutes apart. And we'd go to Waddell's house and, hang out at the tiki bar. They'd come up here to my house. I got a few ponds and we'd fish and shoot bows and hang out. So, we look forward to spending time together, but we feel so guilty. I mean, honestly, if it was just us, we would hang out dang near every day. But when we're home, because we're gone so much, we feel obligated to our family and we need to do things with our family. Not that we don't want to do things with our family. That sounds horrible, but if it was just three bachelors, whatsoever, hey, we'd be together on or off the camera. That's how tight we are. And, Michael says, it's obvious that even if there was no cameras, we'd still be hunting. I mean, like we would still be doing this lifestyle. It just so happens it's being documented on camera. It's not like, oh, that's my job, I got to go do this. And it's no, it's like we're doing this anyway. We might as well document it. We live it. We love it. We're going to do this regardless if there's a camera or not.
And as you get into I'm in my mid 40s. You just turned 50. Waddell's 46, 47 months right in there too, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
In baseball, our careers are over, and now we're a coach in single A, trying to work our way up through the minor leagues as a coach again, like we did as a player, to try to maybe become a manager, maybe become a bullpen coach, maybe become a pitching coach, maybe even a GM someday.
Yeah.
Shockey's probably 63, 64. Stan Potts is somewhere in there too. Ted Nugent's right there, maybe 70 now.
Yep.
He's a real rock star, a real bona fide rock star, with music way before the hunting celebrity came. Can T-Bone do this at 60 years old and still be relevant? Can Waddell be relevant at 55 to a 20-year-old? And can Bone Collector continue on this path of just, I know you were surprised that you guys were ready to pack, like if it would have lasted one season, you've already said on the podcast, you were ready to go back to, drywall and whatever y'all were doing, the archery shop and things like that. Or no, you were going to be a toilet pumper. You said, as long as I don't have to do the tanks anymore or something, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, as long as I don't have to pump septic tanks.
Yeah, septic tanks.
Life's good.
Do you think that in this genre that it's a little bit different to where who knows how long Bone Collector can go. You guys might not have to bring in one of Waddell's sons or one of your guys' kids to replace the old man per se, right?
Yeah,
This is something to where T-Bone, going into your 50s now, you're as relevant now, or if not more, than you were at 37 when you started Bone Collector. Is that
right.
fair to say?
I think so. Again, we don't want to get too big for our britches, no pun intended, but we just want to make sure that we're having a good time. We want to relate to Billy Joe Lunch Bucket. Whether you're that's the great thing about hunting. Everybody's hunting, whether they're 10 years old or whether they're 65 or 70 years old. That's the great thing about it is the hunting lifestyle is not like you said, a baseball player when you're done by the time you're your late 30s. So I think we are relevant with those folks, and we still have that plan B, so to speak, meaning like in our heads we're like, this has already lasted longer. We're so blessed and we're so humbled by all the success that we've had. So we're just going to continue to do so, and basically the fans will let you know when it's time to go. So we're gonna even when we retire, though, we're still going to hunt and stuff. So it's not like we're not going to be doing the same thing. Um, but I think it could. You look at Jackie Bushman, and that they've slowed down a little bit, but they're still doing it. And you got a lot of older ones. And I think that because we keep things so lighthearted and not serious, I think we gravitate to a lot of different people. I mean, I think a lot of people enjoy watching it, and the type of humor and the brotherhood, so to speak. And that's one reason why Michael wanted to call it not like the Michael Waddell Show, and he wanted it to be called the Bone Collector and the Brotherhood, so that anybody could host the show when it comes time to that brand and so on can just carry on. It's not like it's ear tag to Michael Waddell, even though he is the king, so to speak, of it. And we all know that us three were the originators of it, but it can carry on. It's so wide open as to where that brand can go and what it can represent for generations to come, hopefully.
And that is so much harder than to do than when it comes out of your mouth of that, the work that and the dedication, you know what I mean, to get it to that point. It's so hard to even think that you could develop something that could go on without the faces of it. It's like, well, when Michael Jordan went away from Nike, did they fail? No, but they keep him in there somehow. They keep his likeness on that brand somehow with Air Jumpman Jump or whatever.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods has not been relevant as much as he was back 10 years ago. He went through some trouble. He came back, won some tournaments. Nike stuck by his side, but it would continue on without him. It's so hard to get a brand to that point, and it's so cool that you guys have done it. Like, let's take Jim Shockey, for example. If Jim Shockey goes away from Jim Shockey's hunting adventures or one of his properties, Eva's in a position in her life to where she might not be able to travel the world and have a camera crew hunting these expeditions like her father Jim does. Jim's wife for sure isn't going to do it. Jim's son is more on the behind the camera side. So does he have somebody that would step in there and keep that theme going? Who knows? Bone Collector is that thing to where, yeah, it could be Waddell's son when he's done fishing in college. He might come over and start getting more integrated into it. And then,
Yeah.
Once in a while they go visit you guys, back, on your porch, and you're telling them stories of how it used to be. And speaking of how it used to be, Travis, 15 years ago, T-Bone, I should just call you T-Bone. 15 years ago, I could just see you putting in for tag applications and just be like a kid in a candy store, you just like look like Beavis and Butthead, all shook up, just going nuts. Like, oh, are you still that way?
Absolutely, because I mean, people ask that, they what's on your bucket list? What do you want to kill now? And I tell them, and I'm 1000% honest. If I don't kill another critter, I've already outlived my dreams. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. I mean, as a fat Georgia redneck back in my 20s and early 30s, I thought that I might get to go on a Midwest hunt maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. That's the best I could ever hope for. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have bigger goals and everything, but I want to be a realist as well. So if I don't kill another critter, I mean, absolutely, I've already outlived my dreams 1,000 times over.
but you still are like that, and that anticipation is still there, and you're still like that kid living his dreams, to where at 50 years old you're not mad at him like you might once been, but you still are just that juiced to get in a tree stand again, because once you've seen a buck under a tree stand or a duck over decoys, you've seen it all. I mean, it doesn't matter, like once you've seen it one time, you've seen it all. That's what people could easily assume, right?
No,
Which
no, no, no. That's the great thing. That's the great thing about whitetail. I mean, all hunting is that way, but especially whitetail, just because that's primarily what we hunt, and it's just it seems to be the king because it's all across the country, and whether you hunt them in Montana or Florida, every way's different, and every hunt is different. I mean, so the way they walk in, you can relate to this when the birds are coming in. It ain't the same twice. It may be 3 ducks, it may be 10 ducks, it may be they're highballing and you can't get them to come in, so you have to work it differently. Every hunt is different, so the intensity level, no, it's still there. I mean, I can sit there and watch does all afternoon. I tell people this a lot of time, knowing that we're not going to shoot a doe, and then later in the afternoon it's like, okay, when your mind clicks and it says, okay, we're going to take a doe, and then the intensity and the adrenaline just rushes because now you've made your mind up. It's like, now we're going to harvest a doe. The switch has been flipped and I'm into kill mode. So no, if you lose that adrenaline or you lose that excitement, then there's not a need to go. So I personally, it's more than just the hunt. We do go on a lot of nice hunts, but I'm getting so much into like what Waddell has talked about is my place here, my farm, and I have a lease that adjoins mine. I got 22 acres that adjoins my land here at home. I'm so much into the land management, the habitat, planning, and I know it seems kind of contrary. It just adds to the pride factor when you do harvest the animal or growing the animals and making the land prettier. I call it diesel therapy. That is my I guess if I did have a hobby, so to speak, that's what I love, is land management and doing that stuff 12 months out of the year. Every day I'm doing or thinking or studying, trying to make the land around here better so that it adds to the pride factor. And it's like, man, it's so self-satisfying to know that, I've got more deer on this property than what I did before. I've built habitat up. I got thick bedding areas. I got food plots planted. So I'm changing the way they travel. I'm backing off on pressure on certain things. But all those things together just adds to the overall year-round pride factor, more so than just like, hey, I got in a tree and I shot a doe. I mean, that's prideful by all means, but I'm just trying to add to it.
And how do you explain to somebody that it listens to you talk about land management and food plots and Clover or all of these different companies that are supplying seed and salt licks and different forms of nutrition for these deer, and then you kill a deer on that land? To the outsider, it looks like, wow, they're just killing deer over something where the deer couldn't eat that. And when you educate somebody on that, when you're talking at a dinner or a banquet or a seminar, speaking engagement, T-Bone, do you really give people the time of day on an education basis of saying, look, the nutritional value that we're doing, the improvement of the lands, the quality of the habitat, the structures that we're providing, the water management, everything that goes into this? How do you get that message across personally when the first notion that might go off into somebody's head is like, oh, there's been deer on that land for years. You're just making it to where they never leave that area and you kill all the good bucks?
Yeah, well, we try to document it, so touch on it a little bit social media wise throughout the year, just to show folks that there's hard work that's going in there all year long, and it's real easy. I mean, and the work you put in is the work you get out. The more you put in it, the more you put out. Well, it's like if you built your own house. If you're sitting there watching TV in a house that you built, you're going to feel a lot prouder of that house, knowing that you laid the bricks around that thing. So it's no different than if you washed your car, you're going to avoid that darn mud puddle. No difference. Anything that you put a little sweat equity in, there's going to be a pride factor that goes along with it. And I mean, that's just common sense. That's just human nature. I can see where the American farmer that goes out there and plants those, and he's trying to get a higher yield on his corn. I mean, I relate to that so well. You're watching the weather, you're watching the when to plant, the temperature of the soil. All those things go into a higher yield, and I'm doing the same things to feed a deer. I mean, sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, you're crazy, man. You're spending so much time, but it's so fun and it's so enjoyable, and it just means so much. Like when you're sitting in the stand and maybe that target buck doesn't come out, but that you've got hours and hours and days of sweat equity out there. And you're like, just last night, I went yesterday evening, I was trying to roost a turkey. and I'm overlooking a power line where we've got about 8 acres of food plots planted, and there's 18 deer out there. We're a long ways away from deer season. Can't see but any nubs on a deer. I don't know if they're bucks or does or anything, but I've got 18 deer out there eating food that I planted and then I've sprayed to kill the weeds 3 weeks ago, and they're enjoying that. I mean, it's almost like a woman cooking a good meal and seeing all the guys come in and enjoying the fruits of the labor. So I'm getting enjoyment out of deer hunting. Here it is in the middle of April in a quarantine. I mean, what better, I I know I'm trying to explain it. I just can't explain it as good as what it is. So every single day I'm seeing, like, I take the mulcher out there and I take and mulch out some areas where they can get to the mass crop a lot better. And I know that's going to be crucial come late fall, whenever the nuts are dropping, the acorns are dropping, and they're feeding. They're going to be able to get to it. I've seen where the turkeys are scratching just because I made that habitat better for them, something that they normally couldn't get to. So every day, I'm scratching that itch. I'm basically preparing stuff, and I'm seeing results, instant gratification on things that you're doing, and it lasts all year long.
So when you look at those 18 deer, and they're so picturesque and they're beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And you have a lot of admiration and respect for the resource. It's obvious in the passion of your voice. But you also say stuff like this, T-Bone. I killed that deer. I shot that turkey in the face. I shoot him dead. Do you apologize for the T-Bone that says things like that after you say a sentence like, I have 18 beautiful deer, don't know if they got nubs or if they're bucks or not, but they're enjoying that meal like a lady and the fruits of labor? When I am on the foul life and the ducks come in and I say kill them, and then it goes to air, and then my email inbox increase from our info at the foul life and our Instagram and our social media fill up with, why do you have to use words like kill? Why can't you be a little bit more subtle? Why is it always kill them, kill them, kill them? Why can't it be get them or take them? And part of me goes, that makes sense. And then the me that's in the blind in the moment, I never say I'm sorry for saying things like that. Do you ever catch yourself and want to reiterate that? Or do you not make apologies at all for saying things like, I like a shotgun for a turkey and shooting them right in the face?
No, I don't think so. We've been given stewardship over the renewable resources, and the key word there is renewable resource. The biologists of every state, they have the education, and they've went to school so that we can maximize the herd or the flock, or make sure that we have the right amount of deer. So there's a limit there. You can only take so many as it is, no matter what state you're hunting in, whether you're waterfowl hunting, whether you're deer hunting, or whatever. That's why there are limits. However, it's the thrill of the hunt. We all have that in us. Waddell talked about it, gives a synopsis of, it's like, how come everybody's a hunter? Well, everybody is a hunter. I mean, I don't care if you're a woman that lives in Manhattan or whatever. How come when a kitten comes out, it knows to chase that moth that's flopping on the floor? It's in its blood. It's an instinct. No different than the woman that's in Manhattan. Now, society has made it way more convenient. But you look at a woman that's shopping on Amazon. Is she looking for the best deal? Yeah, she's hunting a good deal. When she gets up in the morning, is she hunting for a good cup of coffee? Yeah, she's hunting for a good cup of coffee. It's always in it, but through convenience and through uneducated folks, they basically look back and say, well, I don't have to go hunting. You don't have to go hunting. That's the great thing about society and us being the stewards of the land. Yeah, someone else has done the hunting and provided the meat that's in the freezer at the grocery store, and then by gosh, they can come and make sure that they get their meal that way. So, we're all hunters and we're all gatherers. We just have some people enjoy the hunt and enjoy the whole. They enjoy the whole process of, and they enjoy being the hunter, the gatherer, the provider, the leader. I mean, there's a lot of pride to that. Just like we talked about the farmer. Hey, it's like, I've created this for this. Now I can manage the herd so that I have an extremely healthy herd. So that I'm not just shooting the first thing that comes by. I'm selectively taking the most mature doe. I'm selectively taking the oldest buck. So you're not just shooting anything that comes by. You're doing it so that you have a well-managed herd, so that the other people that are hunting the same lands as you are having the same type of experience that you are. And then, it's more than just I shot a deer and I put it on my table. You're making it a 12-month enjoyable process, and you're actually raising the deer. You're farming for deer, basically.
Yeah, and I think that through the education process, which is I think everybody owes it to themselves to become educated. So if you have somebody that has the knowledge of T-Bone Turner that lays down knowledge like you just said right there, you just spit your game right there. Is it a responsibility of a guy like you, T-Bone Turner, that to go out and spread that word? Is it the responsibility of us that we have a platform or a quote unquote voice in the industry or the space now? Or is it better just to keep our mouths shut and let them be ignorant to it? Or do we keep spinning our wheels on different ways to try to educate people on the management of land and the nutritional value, the conservation efforts by hunters? Do we talk about this until we're blue in the face and that we're never going to change the anti's mind? Or are you of the mindset that times they are a changing, like Bob Dylan said, and said that we are starting to get more of a voice of being able to show somebody why hunting is important through the quarantine, for example? How awesome is it to have a cooler full of wild game meat and not have to go buy all the meat at your local supermarket and leave that meat there for somebody that's not a hunter? We don't have to worry about that. So do you think that through our education and voices like you that are so well spoken and well received, that it's our responsibility when you get in the position that you are, or that I might be in the duck world? And I'm not saying that I'm as big as you guys are, but I'm just saying, do we have to take that responsibility on, or do we just stay quiet and take it and just hunt now? Can you kind of see what I'm asking there?
No, absolutely. I think you absolutely. We've been given a platform. So, I think we owe it to our sport. I think we owe it to, to be a little philanthropist, so to speak. But in the same token, we don't need to step on eggshells, meaning like we don't need to make any excuses by all means. We are hunters. It's been around. It's our, it's our privilege. It's our God-given right. We don't need to make excuses for it. Now, can you tactfully do it? Absolutely. I mean, are there some things that probably we shouldn't do? Yeah, I think the days of taking the deer and putting it on the hood of the car and riding it around all that's not done tastefully. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think you can tactfully be a hunter and explain to why we do hunt and how hunters are the number one contributor for conservation, and the dollars that we raise and the education that we are. And if what I have found, and you probably the same way, as many times as we're on a flight, I tell this story a lot, is when we're on flights or we're traveling, airports are full of very diverse cultures. So you never know who you're going to sit next to. I mean, half the time it may be somebody that is an anti-hunter or who doesn't see eye to eye. But I've learned that most people are kind of on the fence. And because they don't actually tune into our shows or watch our, social medias and stuff like that, they're going to pick up that, People magazine, and they're going to see a little blurb that Britney Spears might have said saying, yeah, she's against hunting. So she's like, you know what? I like Britney Spears. I feel the way she does, without even knowing the backstory of what goes into as a hunting or an outdoor lifestyle. So when I meet people like that, I can tell that this person's on the fence, or they may even be towards the anti-hunter. If they're open-minded for a conversation, we sit there and talk. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, they're just uneducated. And that's why I think that we do need to do that. They just are uninformed. They've formed an opinion based off of what they've seen on TMZ or Entertainment Tonight. And it's just like, hey, I'm not giving that much thought. This person says it. So, it's maybe a leftist decision or so, and then they jump on that bandwagon. So as long as we're educating, yeah, we have to fly that flag as hunters, as outdoorsmen, so that we are reaching those people. But not just us. I mean, the burden is on us a lot. But I encourage when we're going to these events and stuff, for everybody. I don't care whether you're working in a steel factory, you're hanging sheetrock or whatever. With the numbers being down as far as licensed hunters, everybody needs to encourage someone to become a hunter. When you're in the backyard and you're skinning out that goose or you're skinning that deer, and you got that neighbor that's 2 yards over and he's looking over the fence, it's like, hey, what are they doing over there? Rather than giving him the finger and thinking he's a nosy neighbor and you not really know him, welcome him over, give him an adult beverage, sit there and talk to him about everything that went into the hunt. Next time you're going on a hunt, show him how you're going to prepare this, invite him over to eat eat on your Traeger and make sure that you have a back strap, share some meat with him and say, hey, wasn't this good? Or you're feeding him some fish or some goose or duck or way you're preparing it. Say, hey, next time we go, won't you tag along, man? And you can see the pride factor. That's what we, and I say we, not just folks that are on the TV or have a little bit of a platform. Everybody that is an outdoorsman or a huntsman needs to be doing that. They need to be encouraging, because if every hunter that there is now, a licensed hunter, gets just one person, just think of the way the numbers are going to go. If you can convert one person, or maybe it's a guy that used to hunt that hadn't hunted in 10 years, maybe you get him back. Maybe it's not a kid. I mean, absolutely, we need to take kids hunting for the insurity of the future. We need to make sure that we're taking anybody, a woman, a kid, now more than ever. I'm sure Waddell touched on this. There's more single parents than ever. So we need to mentor some folks and get them into the outdoors so that we make those numbers grow, and that we make hunting and outdoors and the conservation efforts be in a positive light. Let them learn about the whole experiences and the times that we have out there and all the great food and the renewable resources and how enjoyable this lifestyle really is.
Got it so well said when you say it. If somebody came to you, if our president, Donald Trump, called T-Bone Turner today and said, T-Bone, we're going to put together a forum, we're going to put together a panel, and we're going to bring some of these people that are on the fence. We're going to bring some people that are antis. We're going to bring some people that used to hunt but may not be in it anymore. We're going to have people that never had a mentor, because we both understand how important mentorship is. I just took a note in my phone to call T-Bone and discuss mentorship with him. I just emailed myself. You can see it right up there. See it on the top? Yeah. I just emailed myself and I put mentor and I said, call T-Bone to discuss mentorship. T-Bone, this is your president, Donald J. Trump. You get to pick 5 individuals to be on this panel with yourself. So a total of 6 individuals. They do not have to be industry TV personalities. They don't even have to work in the hunting industry. Through your experiences and your travels, T-Bone Turner, who are you going to have on those 5 chairs next to you to spread this good word of hunting, the culture of hunting, conservation, everything that we've been touching on so far today? Who are the 5 people that you send a personal email to say, you are one of 5 that I am inviting on this? Some we may have heard of, some we may have not.
I'd have to give it some deep thought, but if you're putting a gun to my head to decide, one would be Kai Burkett. Burkett, he's a ranch manager in Texas, the Wexford Ranch, actually, where we hunt. Just a great conservationist, and he just gets it. He's just done so much conservation wise. He's a great guy, and he gets the whole deal. Very well spoken. He would be one of them. I would hate to stop at 5, to be honest. Waddell for sure, just because he could sell a moose a hat rack. And then
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. Plus Denny Malloy. Denny Malloy is a field director for Whitetails Unlimited. He's very good politically, and he's very well spoken. He's used to be a game warden. Now he's a director with Whitetails Unlimited, and he's very well versed in conservation biology and as the preserving the hunting heritage, protecting our Second Amendment rights. Yourself, I know I'm not, just because we're on here, you really impressed me, as far as being extremely well spoken, and you would come in there, especially on the waterfowl side, just so that there's a little diversity. And, being from a Western states, I think that would show a lot. And might have to have, I'm thinking Ted Nugent. Just because there's no one that can out-debate Ted Nugent, period.
Strong. So if Ted Nugent's on this panel and things go bad and you're on your cell phone, you're like, all heck's breaking loose. All HE double hockey sticks is breaking loose. I don't know if I should ever say that word when I'm talking to a Southern man. So I respect this. I respect the Bible Belt. So I don't talk like that. Sometimes I do if I heard it. Like yesterday, I said it because Waddell said it first. So
yeah, that's fine.
Hell breaks loose. The place pandemonium. Now you have to say, I get 5 people with bow and arrows, like the John Rambo scene in one of the newer Rambo movies when he's just taking his bow off and pulling them out of his sheath on his back. Who are the 5 archers you want on T-Bone's team that can hit their target Who are the best archers that you know right now? We may know some, we may not. Who would you want on your team under pressure? And keep in mind that I was at the Edge event for the 3D archery target shoot at the Edge event in April of 2017 down in Georgia, and I witnessed that. So I don't know if the winner of that would be one of them, but who are your 5? Go.
Levi Morgan for sure. Waddell. I'd pick Waddell just because Waddell he's not necessarily, he's good on a target by all means, but like when it comes to filling a freezer or the pressure's on, he performs well under pressure. Gosh, I don't know. There's so many good ones out there.
I don't know him like you do. That's why I'm wondering who you're looked at as one of the top resources of archery. You're a very authoritative. You have an authoritative voice in archery. So is it the Nugents? Is it Nick Munt? Nick Munt won the target contest. Is he a strong archer? But is he not the guy that you would call on? Did he get lucky that day? Are we saying this on the national podcast that Nick gets lucky a lot with his bow?
No, he kills a lot of critters too. He had a really, really good day that day. Let's put it that way. Yeah, he had a really good day that way. But no, he's a great shot as well. Probably pick Dan McCarthy. He would be one of them. He's out of Wisconsin. And then, gosh, there's so many of them.
What makes Levi so special? Did you compete against him? Did you ever beat him? I know he's won lots and lots of titles. Is he as strong in the field on animals as he is on a 3D target range in a competition style archery shoot? Is he just a great guy? Does he just get it?
He's all of the above. He's very humbled, very low key, doesn't let the pressure get to him, suppresses the nervous energy, which is something that really makes a great archer. He's quite a bit younger than me. So about the time I was finishing up is about the time that he was getting into the professional classes. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was at some of the tournaments, but he was in the young adult class and the youngster when I was competing. So I knew him back then, and I knew he was going to be a force to reckon with. But about the time that, fortunately, about the time I was getting out, he was just getting into the pro classes. But no, he's been dominant, probably the most dominant archer in the last 40 years for sure. Randy Ulmer is my idol as well. He's he doesn't shoot anymore either, but he's from Arizona, and he was one to reckon with, throughout the 90s and early 2000s. So he would be one that I would also make sure that was on that as far as getting the job done. And just an incredible hunter, incredible target archer. Yeah, and Levi just gets it. He suppresses the nervous energy. He's got a strong mental game. He's, very in shape, and he's just done it so long. And most of all, especially in the 3D world, he is an incredible yardage judger, because you're not allowed to use rangefinders. You have to judge the distance. Oh. So, you can be the best shot in the world, but if you can't judge the target that's out there to within the 1 yard, you're not going to get the scoring rings that you need. So he's the total package. And to top it all off, he's not arrogant. He's a great family man, a God-fearing man, and he's just a good guy. I mean, you always pull for him regardless. So, he's been here at the house before, and we've been friends for years, and we stay in touch throughout the year too. So
I'd like to meet him someday. Maybe you can make an introduction. I just like to say hello because I watch him. I really like the way he carries himself. Does Fred Bear make your list? Is he the godfather of archery, or is he? Why does he have such a reputation as being, quote unquote, the godfather of archery? And would he make your list?
Well, I mean, he's just an icon in our industry. One, he took us to the next level, back when archery was just getting going between, owning and running bear archery and building bows and just, traveling the whole world, stacking up critters and such. So he's doing it at a time when, innovations wasn't nowhere near like what they are today. So, hats off for him to getting us to where we are now. So a ton of admiration for him. Since we've been talking, I would probably put Fred Eichler in there too. Fred Eichler, if I'm not mistaken, is the first man to ever he completed the Super Slam, which is 29 North American big game species. And he did it all with a recurve. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is,
I think it's only been done by like 2 other people, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well it's been done quite a few times actually, with compounds, but he was the first with a recurve for sure. So that is a feat in itself. I
And
think Levi,
you talk about a humble guy too, and just a family
yeah,
man. Fred is just awesome, man.
and so funny, just so
Oh,
funny. I mean, I
love it.
think,
And you talk about a kid in a candy store, like
yeah,
when a coyote comes in or a turkey or a fish
yeah,
hits his bobber, he just goes nuts, doesn't he?
oh yeah, yep, yeah. He is a great one. He is. I mean, he's so well respected within the industry, but then again, I think he's kind of, he's kept the humble path, and he's kind of overlooked more than he should be, because he deserves way more respect and way more admiration than even what he gets now, which is a lot.
I agree 100%.
Yeah,
He's been on the podcast, and I felt so honored. I got to sit down with him in Denver at
yeah,
Coors Field, and I was like, man, this is Fred Eichler. I've always looked
yeah,
up to him. Do you, when you mentioned Randy Ulmer, he's killed so many big mule deer out where we live, in
yep,
this state in Utah. He's got to have something that separates him to be consistently putting those kind of animals and those type of inches on the ground as an archer. He's getting within 60 yards of big, mature, mule deer that have been there, done that, right?
yeah,
Is it instincts? Is it just knowing the lay of the land? What gives him that? You said something that really impressed me, of suppressing the negative energy, which
yeah,
it could, I could imagine that when that ghost of the woods walks out and you're not ready for it and you're almost falling off your tree stand, is like that negative energy is trying to get you to fail, but you kind of get your systematic breathing down. You try to think, your mental process starts to go to a different level. Your preparation is key. Your everything that goes into that shot and but the stock and getting in position to make that shot, is it his competitiveness through his career that made him into that type of hunter, that he wanted to be the absolute best mule deer hunter?
if you look at all the great archers and hunters, they all have similar personalities, meaning like they're a little bit OCD. They're extremely anal about making sure that their equipment is not going to fail them. They've really spent the time practicing. They've did the due diligence to make sure that they're proficient. So that's one thing. And then two, they have the ability to suppress the nervous energy as well as suppress the negative energy, meaning like they have the mentality of, I'm going to get this, rather than, man, I hope I don't screw up. They've got it. I've got this. I've done this 1,000 times. I've got this. Or there's a very few sports where you want to suppress the nervous energy, just like golf. You don't want that adrenaline rush. You don't want to try to kill the ball. You want the same head speed. You want everything to go the same exact way, so that you don't have that nervous energy. Same thing with archery. You don't want, whenever it's time for, this is a $10,000 shot, or hey, this is a buck of a lifetime, you want to be able to calm those nerves down and just suppress the nervous energy. So you have to have that confident but yet humbled and calming mindset, so to speak. And Randy has that, as well as Levi and all the ones that seem to make it happen. That's the way they're wired, so to speak. And
Makes
patient.
I mean, what you said just now could have been said about the Derek Jeters and
Yeah,
the John McEnroes and the Sampras, the guys that have always elevated their game in all different walks of athletics, is probably the same. Maybe not the OCD part like an archery hunter would be, but a lot of those same characteristics. T-Bone, I think that we need to do more of these. I love, maybe we even think about hosting a Zoom podcast to where we bring up a third window, because
sure.
you've been on these Zoom meetings, and maybe you and I have a weekly show of talking to the Levi Morgans and the guys that you mentioned, and get Eichler on here, get an athlete on here, get Mark Chestnut on here, maybe a
Yeah.
little Sammy Kershaw, and talk about queens of double wide trailers, and eating chicken fried steak by the lobster tank and a gin
Yeah.
fizz. And God, I love Sammy Kershaw music. I
Oh,
could sit and listen to him.
oh yeah.
The Waylon remake that he did of "She's Gonna Love Me" in my Chevy van.
Yep.
Ooh. So I gave you an hour to think about it now. Give me the best brim, and I assume that it's going to be battered and fried, because fish fries are unbelievably well taken in the South. They're as well received in the South as church might be, or is that is that not good to say? But I think
Oh
that they
no.
might be.
Yeah,
Right?
they are. Yeah, it's pretty much a toss up between a crappie and a brim or a bluegill. I mean, there's between those two, those are some, and catfish too, for that matter. But nonetheless, I like to fillet them. A lot of people, um, I fillet them, if you can catch a bunch of them, that way you're doing away with a bunch of the real small hair bones, and all you got is the rib meat there, and then just lightly batter them, cornmeal, and then pan fry them. Don't deep fry them. I like to pan fry them. That way it's just like a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch of vegetable oil, and flip them over back and forth. That's the way I like to cook them. But
wait a minute, what's the seasoning? What's the breading and what's the seasoning? I want to see if it's the same as Waddell's.
Yeah, it's flour and cornmeal mixed with salt and pepper in there. Simple.
No Tony's. He uses Tony's, but the flour and cornmeal were the same.
Yep. No, the Tony's is a little too spicy in my opinion. I just use the flour and cornmeal combination, and then salt and pepper. A little more pepper than salt. And yeah, that's and some people put like an all-purpose seasoning sometimes on there. Something that I'm switching gears on you. Don't get me wrong, Brent. And you got to eat them with tartar sauce, in my opinion. A lot of people use ketchup or vinegar. I'm a tartar sauce man with my brim and crappie. And you got to have hush puppies with onions and bell pepper in them. Amazing.
Whoa. So you take the cornmeal and you mix in the vegetables with them, onions and green bell peppers, and then fry them
with buttermilk.
With buttermilk.
With buttermilk, you make a batter.
Is there any cheese in these hush puppies?
You could, and no one would ever complain, but normally we don't put the cheese in there because it gets so hot it runs out the sides.
Let me ask you this: when you mention that recipe, do you have any idea what the origins and why they are called a hush puppy? Was it somebody was talking so much that somebody just shoved them in one of their mouths and said, or was a dog barking so much and they wanted to shut the dog up?
When they're making cornbread, or when it's the leftover batter and stuff that they had for breading the fish and whatever, they just would make it. It's like, hey, rather than having the dog bug at the table, they'd make these little dough balls that looked like barnacles and stuff. And it's like, hey, just feed that crap to the dog, rather than waste it, throwing it in the trash. They just fry up some balls and just some barnacles and stuff that was left over in the hot grease, and everything that you scooped out there, the real crispy fries that gets left behind in the grease, all that stuff just went over there to feed the dog. So that's where it came up with hush puppies. You had to shut the dog up.
Wow. I just was guessing, but I could see a lady in the South going, hush puppy. And then wow, that's what we're going to call them.
Yeah. Or, it's just basically, it's a filler, rather than having to feed the dog all the scrap meat, which is valuable for all the protein. You just mix that in there, and it's a good filler, no different than cereal that you have in a lot of dog feeds that there are today. I wanted to tell you, because it's killing me to tell you about the turkey, the wild turkey.
Yeah, that's where we're going next.
Yeah, the wild turkey is always so dry, and we always make nuggets, which are amazing. You got to cut them real small, and you batter them up very similar to what you do with the brim, and you fry them up like that, and that's good by all means, but it's just always so dry, which I love turkey, but it's just so dry. Even the Thanksgiving dinner, a lot of times it's so dry, if you don't just pump it full of marinade. So what I did this past week, and if you followed along, I took it and put it in a slow cooker. I got a big Weston slow cooker. I put it in there, the 2 breasts and chicken broth and a little bit of seasoning and water, and just cooked the fire out of it to where it was just falling apart, just absolutely falling apart. And then put it in a skillet, mixed the mushrooms in there, and then put fajita seasoning in there. So then I had this big, just tons of chicken that we can put for tacos that we made fajitas out of. We made enchiladas, and you can use it in any recipe, any type of Mexican, and it has stayed moist the whole time. Leave the water, don't drain the water off, leave all that moisture on there. And then anytime you're pulling it out of the refrigerator and eating on it, because turkey breasts off of a 23-pound turkey, they're pretty big.
Yeah,
that's a lot of meat, man. We've ate off of that for a week and a half, and my family's loved it, and it's always stayed moist, and it was just so much more delicious than a one and done type fried turkey type thing, which is good also. But I'm just so happy with my newfound way to prepare the turkey.
I did follow along, and I was like, man, he's kind of going pulled pork on me with the slow cook, and it just falling apart with 2 forks. So I'm glad that we talked today, and I'm glad that we settled our long-lived argument of that a Traeger really is a grill and a barbecue, and not just a T-bone quoted smoker, and that you can bake and you can barbecue and you can grill and you can reverse sear. Are we clear on this now, or do I need to get one down to you and fly in there and put on a little seminar?
I have a Traeger, and I absolutely love the Traeger for certain things. And, I'm just being 1,000% honest. You can do so many things with it. And maybe I need to talk to the folks at Traeger, because I've yet to get mine over 365 degrees. I can't get it hotter than that.
Do you know which model it is off the top of your head?
The 900. It's about 3 years old.
I'll get with you today on that, because there's some new innovation on that we'll talk about. But I understand what you're saying, but I want you to get the new and improved stuff, because everything evolves technology wise. So
Sure.
I'll get that done. I will contact you in regards to this mentorship idea. I talked to Waddell about it a little bit too. I'll talk to you about this podcast idea. We'll keep kicking it around, and I still have to get my bow down there. Do I need to be there for my bow for you to start work on it, or is it easier for me to be there physically?
No, I can do about 95% of it without you here, just by talking. But yeah, at some point I'm going to need to be with you just to finalize things like peep height, kisser height, tweaking the draw length to where it's just precise, and making sure that the release is just but as far as like arrow preparation, poundage and all that, and doing the whole tuning process, that I can do it without you here.
All right, I'm gonna ship that down in a hard case, and then I want it all bone. I want it all bone collected out, or whatever gear or product or knick-knack stuff you need on there. All right.
Sure. Yeah, you can see behind me, I got a bunch I've been working on actually right here. So
I see, and it's not a Hoyt. It's not a Hoyt. Is that okay?
Doesn't matter. Yep, we'll get you set up, or we'll get you a Hoyt.
All right, well, let's talk about that. That's T-Bone Turner, bone collector. He is the man. Check him out on Instagram at T-Bone Outdoors.
That's right. Yep. Facebook, Twitter, and that.
And
now TikTok.
And now TikTok. These guys are in their 50s and they're on TikTok. Waddell said, I don't know if Waddell's 50 yet, but he's close enough not to have a TikTok. I'm going to have to have a sit down with you guys on this too. And now I'm going to have to get one just to know what y'all are doing. It's crazy. It's like, It's never ending. But hey, it's fun. And as long as you don't let it go to your head or let it take over your life, and you still put the phone down, like you said on our last podcast, of the hours spent in the truck with your son, and those hours and minutes are meant for no phone, no iPad, no iPod, nothing that Steve Jobs came up with. Travis T-Bone Turner, thank you so much, brother. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good day, man.
Yes, sir. You too, T-Bone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Let us know how send us some more Instagram footage of those brim frying, so we can all have our mouths water. And that's T-Bone Turner, bone collector. Remember, this episode was brought to you by our friends at Jack Daniels. Enjoy it responsibly. Tom, please do me a favor. Hit that button. This song was written by Leith Lofton and our good buddy Drake White. What you gonna do when the money's all gone?